This is the third part of the video about the brave new world, about the future of our civilization, and it is dedicated to recommended diet. What professional medical doctors, what professional dietitians, and other medical professionals recommend us to consume, and what would be consequences. They medical professionals promote so-called healthy food pyramid, and this healthy food, they say the most of the calories humans have to get from grain and some grain products like bread, pasta, pizza, and noodles, etc. Most of the calories are recommended to get from this grain. Next part is a little bit less calories. We are supposed to get from plant-based foods. It is fruits and vegetables, and this food is promoted as healthy food. The more fruits and vegetables humans eat, the more healthy they are. This is just a narrative which we can hear from medical doctors. Some much smaller amount we can get proteins from animal products, and very little from sugar and fat and oil. Okay, then general recommendation of so-called this World Health Organizations are to consume from 15 to 30 grams of protein at each meal, and so it is really, as I say, that we have to limit amount of proteins, and mostly to get proteins from plants, not from animals. This is our recommendation. So our diet, human diet, recommended health diet, should consist of grain products, various noodles, bread, etc., and in some amount also seeds like beans and legumes and nuts, etc. This is recommended as healthy diet. But I should say that humans were not evolved to consume plant-based food. The only animals that are moreover that's adapted to eat seeds are birds. For example, these birds and the chicken, they have special part of the esophagus that it is like named crop, where if they eat seeds, the seeds stay in this crop in moisture environment with high moisture, and also it is temperature relatively high. So what is happening in this crop? It is that seeds start to germinate. When seeds start to germinate, what is happening? The seeds normally protected by plants by a lot of toxins. Why are they doing it? Because plants don't want other animals eat their babies, and seeds are their babies. So they put a lot of toxins, a lot of some harmful substances to seeds, that any animal that consumes the seeds will get sick and eventually will die out, or will not propagate, will not have offspring. So birds are more adapted to this. So during this germination of seeds, toxins are removed, because seeds don't need any longer any protection if they germinate. If they germinate, they have to grow in toxin-free environment. So toxins are going further, and what is not well represented here, that chicken have relatively large size liver. Liver producing bile. Bile is a substance which removes toxins, and these toxins go out as excrements. So if you pay attention what kind of excrements chicken produce, you will see that sometimes they are white color because chicken eat a lot of calcium carbonate, for example, and magnesium carbonate, but also a lot of dark green and almost black substance in the excrements, and these are exactly the bile that removes toxins from chicken stomach. Of course, humans don't produce so much bile in percentage or to the food, and so we cannot consume seeds. We don't have this special environment for crop. But of course, by technology, we humans already developed some methods to reduce amount of toxins, like cooking at very high pressure, at high pressure and temperature, above 100 degrees, and soaking in water and in running water. So it also kind of leads to germination of the seeds. So it can work, but yet, as I said, humans don't are not evolved to rely on grains and seeds. This food was not for humans. What other problem with this carbohydrates and grains? So grains and seeds, they have a lot of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, when they are treated by enzymes, they break down to sugars. It is mostly fructose, glucose, and galactose. These sugars are getting to blood. What is again happening? Sugar reacts with proteins and lipids, especially with lipids that are oxidized lipids, so polyunsaturated fatty acids. So, and then proteins and these oxidized lipids became glycated. Glycated means sugar react with these proteins and lipids, and what we have in time accumulation of so-called advanced glycation end product, glycation end products. These products, again, we don't have enzyme to break down these products. They accumulate with age slowly but steady. They accumulate because proteins, especially for example collagen and elastin, react with these sugars, and they sugars cross-link collagen fibers, and they destroy also elastin fibers. What we are getting eventually is that young skin of young individuals is elastic because it has a lot of elastin fibers and it has the collagen fibers. But in older people, elastin fibers are destroyed and collagen fibers are broken down, so that the skin is losing elasticity. This is quite visible in old people. And this is a result of this glycation reaction and a result of this advanced glycation end products accumulation in the body. What else is typical for people who consume seeds and grains? Grains, especially grains, have some protein like gluten, and but other not the only gluten, other proteins. What is happening when you consume plant-based diet and if you consume grains and seeds? In stomach, conditions to digest proteins and to digest carbohydrates are different. To digest proteins, we need very high acidity in the stomach or the gastric juice. If these are carbohydrates, then we need alkaline reaction. So our saliva actually of alkaline reaction, and only this stomach provides acidity. After the stomach, again in guts we have alkaline reaction. So for also our body is very much adapted to save energy, and digestion of meat, the digestion of protein is very energy consuming. So then if humans consume grain-based food and seeds, what is happening? Proteins, which are very difficult to separate from carbohydrates in plants and grain and seeds, they are not digested. They go intact to the guts. All this gluten and other plant-based proteins. What is happening? They produce so-called leaky gut syndrome. The epithelium layer of the guts is getting inflamed, And then the also okay, we can here look here the tight junctions between the epithelium layer destroyed, and there are some gaps between the epithelium layer appear, and through these gaps not only amino acids and fatty acids and glucose and sugars can get through the epithelium layer, but also larger particles like gluten, like other proteins from plants, bacteria and viruses and toxins all can get to our blood system, to our bloodstream. And what is happening next? Some autoimmune diseases develop. For example, lupus is a disease that occurs when your immune system attacks your tissues and organs. Why it happens? When, pardon me, when plant proteins, when plant proteins get to the bloodstream, they migrate somewhere and eventually get attached to some tissues, to your own tissues, and and to organs. Your immune system is able to distinguish your proteins from foreign proteins. And when immune system sees these foreign proteins, plant-based proteins, immune system attack these cells with a plant-based protein attached, and then we have these autoimmune diseases. So obviously it can be cured, but medical professionals claim that lupus is a chronic disease with no cure. So there is some treatment, and treatment it is like to suppress your immune system. And if you suppress working of your immune system, you are completely unprotected from infections. So people who consume these drugs to suppress working of the immune system, they are vulnerable to simple infections. They can die from virus, they can die from this new COVID-19 virus, etc. So it is again look very strange and very unlogical that if we know what leads to the creation of this lupus and other autoimmune diseases, that this is just a reaction of our guts and our body to plant-based proteins, and plant-based proteins are getting to our gut because they are not digested in the stomach, and stomach has not enough acidity to digest the plant-based products. And again, that it is virtually impossible to separate plant-based proteins from carbohydrates. Then proteins are not digested, they go to the guts, and they work, they produce this leaky gut syndrome, and they also will be a food for unfriendly bacteria. Little bit less in scale, psoriasis can develop. Psoriasis is not as bad as lupus, but yet it is very nasty. And when I moved to Thailand and started to eat a lot of plant-based food, especially fruits and vegetables, I developed this psoriasis. And much more nasty if it is nail psoriasis may develop. This is nail psoriasis. It's also autoimmune disease, which we are getting because we consume plant-based proteins, plant-based food, like grain, bread, etc. And to cure the nail psoriasis is very difficult. It is not an infection, it is reaction of our immune system to these foreign proteins, but again, it's very difficult to develop. So again, when I was eating fruits and vegetables, my food was like this. So it's not my fault, but my problem was exactly like it is shown here, exactly. But since I changed the diet, it is all gone. One person who is an example how to cure all these problems, it is Michael Peterson. Michael Peterson is a daughter of quite famous person on internet, And she took not only just keto diet. Keto diet is a diet based mostly on using not carbohydrates but fat as source of energy. But she went further to so-called elimination diet, and this elimination diet, it is complete eliminations of vegetables and fruits and eating only meat. She eats only meat and salt, nothing more. And eventually she was getting so severe problems that her bone joints were destroyed with this deposition of the oxalic acid and uric acid. I will talk about this later, but also because of this plant proteins. So when she moved to this eating only meat, she finally cured herself, cured of this rheumatoid arthritis, etc., etc. What is interesting, medical professionals don't recommend it. They said that we are not convinced, it is just coincidence. No, it is not coincidence. It is a logical consequence that if you allergic and allergy is appears that you're getting leaky gut syndrome, and the leaky gut syndrome you are getting because these plant-based proteins are getting to your guts and they produce inflammation in there, then the only cure is just to stop eating vegetables and fruits. Stop eating plant-based proteins. So our digestive system is much different from from herbivores, so from animals that consume plants and grass. And we are closer, closer to carnivores, something like dogs. Dogs have different, little bit different system. They have larger size of stomach. We have not big stomach, but the size of guts is approximately the same. So, gorillas and other primates are considered genetically close to humans, but they have completely different digestive system. They are, for example, gorillas have very big belly because they have extra long guts and extra long large intestine, and not so big stomach, because stomach they don't produce acids. It is just plant-based food goes to the guts and go especially to the large intestine. And gorillas are eating green stuff. It is leaves, but it can also eat some vegetables and roots. So humans evolved different. During the Ice Age, hunting and fishing has become a main source of food for humans, and therefore our digestive system changed. We cannot digest plant-based food. We digest much more caloric intensive food. It is like fish and meat and fat. We cannot digest cellulose in difference from gorilla, because in gorilla, in large intestines of the gorilla, there are bacteria that break in cellulose and consume this cellulose and producing short chain fatty acids. They produce also proteins, etc. So the gorillas are eating bacteria, not actually plants, but they supply plants as a food for bacteria. We cannot do it because the volume of our large intestine is relatively small to gorillas. What other danger is, again, that not only toxins in seeds and grains we consume, but plants protect themselves with oxalic acid. Oxalic acid, it is just again a way to protect plants that to harm animals that consume plants. And if we eat a lot of green vegetables, what we are getting oxalic acid and salts of oxalic acid. Oxalic acid accumulates, reacts with calcium in our body, and calcium oxalate is not soluble in water. So these crystals of calcium oxalate accumulate in all organs of our body, but especially kidney. We can see here the picture of this stone, small stone in the kidney, but eventually they grow to larger size. And these large stones consist mostly from calcium oxalate, but also with uric acid. Uric acid is the reaction of our body on fructose. Fructose gets converted in our body to uric acid, and then accumulation of this uric acid and calcium oxalate leads to the stones. And to remove these stones from kidney, but also from bone joints, is extremely difficult. It may take, even if you completely will follow elimination diet, completely eliminate fruits and vegetables, or will eat only meat, it will take years and years and years to heal this gout problem or arthritis. Okay, and many old people in Thailand and other countries develop this very, very severe gout problem. And I know in Thailand some people have replacement of bone joints, even in fingers, by metal stuff. So it is incredible suffering. And what is interesting, these people trust medical professionals, and if I try to convince them to stop eating fruits and vegetables, they get angry because they believe they are smart enough and they follow official advice. And I'm not a medical professional. I cannot give any medical advice. This is just express my opinion. But as I said, many people who develop this gout problem, they just will ignore me or will attack me. That's because my opinion is different from medical professionals. But much more different, much more actually more dangerous, it is penetration of this oxalic acid and iron to the brain. Our brain is protected, especially protected. There is a so-called blood-brain barrier. It is highly selective border, and it's some endothelium layer inside the capillaries and other blood vessels that actually protect us from toxins and proteins to get into the brain. But if we follow diet which is recommended as healthy diet, this endothelium layer will be damaged. I will show it later on. Okay, and then proteins, some foreign proteins can get inside, like prions, like other proteins, like amyloids, etc. Misfolded proteins are getting inside, accumulate in the brain. But what it's even more more dangerous, it is that oxalic acid reacts with ions of calcium. Calcium we need to transmit electrical signal through axons from neurons and to nerves and to our other organs. We need calcium ion. And calcium ion, when oxalic acid gets to your brain, to our brain, what is happening? They deplete amount of calcium ions in the brain, and they produce the stones, calcium oxalate. And without calcium, the signals do not propagate through this axon, and all the nervous system is damaged. Result. Okay, these messages that neurons use to communicate with each other just cannot work. And as I said, the oxalate ion is small. It can easily penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and especially if the diet is based on carbohydrates. Okay, what is consequence of this? It is a development of spontaneous urination, spontaneous defecation, because the sphincters which keep urine and feces in our body, and they no longer can be controlled by nervous system, and then this spontaneous urination or bedwetting develops in older people, so they have to use some pads, some this means to avoid this inconvenience. So why we have damage of the brain blood-brain barrier? Capillaries in all our body, but especially in the brain, are protected with a layer of glycocalyx. Glycocalyx, this is just some fibers, yeah, and they are consist of some glycoproteins, glycolipids, and they keep a layer of mucus, protective layer of mucus. What is interesting also, there are ions of sulfur in this glycocalyx, and glycocalyx is a negatively charged substance, and it repels red blood cells, it repels white blood cells, and also toxins and proteins, so that they cannot get through the endothelium layer to brain. But it was already, yeah, wait, okay, we'll go through this a little bit later on. So you see here, glycocalyx, it repels red blood cells or other blood cells, and it protects the endothelium layer. And especially it is important for blood-brain barrier. Okay, it is this layer of glycocalyx protects our brain. But what is already known to science, like 2006, there were many publications actually, that this endothelium glycocalyx layer is damaged if we have high concentration of sugars, of glucose in blood, then it gets damaged. So this was 2006, and in other publications, like it's quite many publications on this topic. High glucose level causes dysfunction of the human endothelium glycocalyx. So these people are losing this protection, especially in the brain, and this leads to degeneration of the brain and the accumulation of these foreign proteins like prions, like amyloids, etc. So our brain gets develop some Alzheimer's disease, etc. because of very high concentration of sugar in brain. So if humans use sugar as a source of energy, then damage of the glycocalyx and all these diseases and the damage to our nervous system is happening. But what is also interesting that in a long time ago, this is like 2008 and 2007, I published some articles, scientific publications, when that demonstrate that resistance to flow of fluid inside the pipe can be reduced if on the inside of the pipe we will coat it with viscoelastic substance. And the higher the elasticity of this coating, the better it works, the better lubrication we can get. So it has very close connection to this blood flow. So if we have viscoelastic layer of mucus and with these glycocalyx fibers, then no need for high blood pressure. So blood goes through almost with no friction. What I have demonstrated, that the presence of viscoelastic layer on the inside of the blood vessels is absolutely critical. So I tried to use this idea to develop advanced engine oils, but problem again that eventually I was not able to get any funds, any support, and this all my idea just now was no use. But I want to tell that this elasticity of this layer is absolutely important for our brain to function. And again, why people don't follow, and I cannot get any money for this, for advanced engine oils. And advanced engine oils, for example, they help because of smaller friction in the engine to save energy minimum 10% up to 15%, and also it reduce wear in engines 50 times. 50 times at maximum, so it is at least 10 times longer engine can work. It is kind of should be interesting, but it is not good for business, because if people will buy engines and cars not so often, so the business, it is not good for business. But again, it is the same situation that medical care is the business, and more people sick, better for business. And the same also, if engines will last not very long, that is good for business. So saving energy, saving humans, improving health of humans is not good for business. It's not good for business of these large corporations. And what can I do if I'm just private person and with very limited access to funds and money? Okay, that's all. I can stop, and I will go to the next part. Just